All right, let's just jump right into it. If you've been keeping an eye on the crypto markets lately, you've probably felt it, right? There's this buzz in the air. After what feels like forever, a huge wave of optimism is washing over the space. So today, we're going to dig in and figure out exactly what's driving this big bullish turn.
So what's the deal? What's really behind this new wave of optimism? Is this just a flash in the pan, a bit of market noise, or are there some real fundamental changes happening under the hood? Well, let me tell you, the evidence is piling up, and it's pointing to some massive shifts.
First up, let's talk about the big one, the main event really. We're talking about the US Federal Reserve, because what they've been doing lately, well, it's basically like rolling out the red carpet for risk assets like crypto. They're creating an environment that's, frankly, pretty much perfect for a major rally.
Just let that number sink in for a second. $13.5 billion. That's how much cash the Fed just mainlined straight into the banking system. And look, this isn't some tiny tweak. This is a serious injection of liquidity. And you know what happens when there's more cash sloshing around, right? People start looking for places to put it to work, looking for higher returns, and that often leads them straight to assets like crypto.
And it's not just about the money they've already printed. Nope, the market is looking ahead, and what it sees is a 90% chance of an interest rate cut this December. That's huge. Historically, lower rates are like pouring rocket fuel on investment markets. It just makes it cheaper for everyone to borrow and invest. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's a super powerful expectation that's already boosting confidence like crazy.
Now, for the last 3 years, the market has been swimming upstream against this thing called quantitative tightening, or QT. The best way to think about it is like the Fed had this giant vacuum cleaner just sucking money out of the economy to fight inflation. It was a massive headwind. Well, guess what? They just switched the vacuum off. The program is officially done. The brakes are off. The headwind is gone.
And it doesn't stop there. There are even more tailwinds possibly coming our way. For one, a new Fed chair is about to be announced this month, which could totally signal a fresh, maybe more friendly approach. And, this is a big one for crypto, the first regulations from the Genius Act are heading for a proposal. This could finally bring some clear rules of the road to the US crypto industry, which is something everyone has been crying out for.
Okay, so you've got the macro picture, right? The Fed is basically giving the market a green light. So, how is Wall Street responding? Well, let's get into our next section, because it looks like the institutional floodgates are finally actually creaking open.
I want you to really look at this number, $11 trillion. Let's be clear, that's not the crypto market cap. That's the amount of money managed by one single company, Vanguard. To put that into perspective, that's bigger than the entire economy of pretty much every country on the planet. It's just a staggering amount of money.
And here is the absolute bombshell. That $11 trillion behemoth, Vanguard, they have just opened up access to Bitcoin and crypto ETFs for their clients. This is, well, it's monumental. There's no other word for it. We're talking about regular people's retirement funds, their 401ks, all getting easy, regulated access to crypto for the first time. This is the kind of mainstream validation the space has been dreaming about.
For a while now, there's been this cloud hanging over the market, this FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt about a big strategic reserve that people were scared could be sold off at any moment, crashing the price. Well, that whole narrative, it's over. A new, massive $1.44 billion reserve has been set up, not to sell, but to act as a backstop. It just adds this whole new layer of stability and confidence.
But hey, this isn't just happening in the US. Not at all. This wave of good news is going global. So let's zoom out and take a look at the international picture, because there are some really interesting signals and one big question mark.
And Japan is the perfect example of this global story. It's like a balancing act. On the one hand, you have this absolutely massive win for crypto investors. Japan is slashing its crypto tax on gains from a jaw-dropping 55% all the way down to a much more reasonable 20%. Huge. But on the other hand, you've got some uncertainty because the Bank of Japan is kicking around the idea of a potential rate hike.
But, and this is a huge but, here's the knockout punch to that rate hike fear. Japan just unveiled a brand new economic stimulus program, and the size? $185 billion. An injection of cash that big could more than wipe out the negative effects of a tiny rate hike. It could actually turn that potential negative into a massive positive.
So let's put it all together. You've got the Fed opening the floodgates, you've got Wall Street giants like Vanguard finally jumping in, and you have major positive signals from around the globe.
When you connect all those dots, you get a pretty clear picture. It leads you right to this conclusion right here. It really does look like the Santa rally could become a reality.
So let's just run through the checklist one last time. Quantitative tightening, that big market headwind, over. Billions in new capital getting pumped into the system, check. The biggest players on Wall Street giving the green light, double check. And crypto-friendly moves from other major economies, you bet. The evidence is just stacking up, plain and simple. Which really leaves just one question. Is the Santa rally coming?